Aarush and the Garden of Many Friends. The morning sun cast golden rays through the tall windows of Riverside Middle School, making dust particles dance like tiny fairies in the air. Aarush Sharma adjusted his backpack on his shoulders as he walked through the bustling hallway. The familiar sounds of lockers slamming, students laughing, and teachers calling out reminders, creating a symphony of middle school life. At 13, Aarush was observant, like a young scientist, noticing the intricate social ecosystem that thrived within these walls. An ecosystem where he somehow managed to float between different groups of friends, each as unique as the various plants in a diverse garden. Aarush was of average height, with warm, thoughtful brown eyes that seemed to miss nothing. His dark hair curled slightly at the ends, and he had a habit of tucking a stray strand behind his ear when he was deep in thought. He wasn't the most popular kid in school, nor was he invisible. He existed in that comfortable middle space, where he could observe without being judged, could listen without being expected to take sides. As he approached his locker, the scent of freshly baked cookies wafted toward him. He didn't need to look to know who was responsible. "Hey, Aarush," called out Jake Wilson, jogging toward him with a bright blue Tupperware container in his hands. Jake was tall and athletic, with a smile that could light up a room and a strategic mind that was always calculating social moves. "Want a chocolate chip cookie? Fresh from my mom's kitchen." Beside Jake stood Ben Carter, shorter but equally enthusiastic, holding a smaller container of what looked like homemade brownies. Ben's glasses perched precariously on his nose as he nodded eagerly at Aarush. "They're really good," Ben added, his voice hopeful. "We're sharing with everyone today." Aarush smiled genuinely as he accepted a cookie. "Thanks, guys. These smell amazing." Jake and Ben exchanged a satisfied look. They had been on a mission since the beginning of the school year to elevate their social status through what they called strategic snack distribution. It was their belief that popularity could be bought, or at least rented, through the strategic giving of treats. They spent their weekends baking with their parents and their mornings distributing the results to anyone who might help them climb the social ladder. As Aarush took a bite of the cookie, the chocolate chips melting on his tongue like tiny bursts of happiness, he noticed Marcus and Davis Johnson heading toward them. The Johnson twins were known throughout the school for their tendency to challenge authority at every turn. Today was no exception. "Did you hear about Mr. Henderson's new homework policy?" Marcus asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "He thinks he can just assign double homework because we need more practice. Who does he think he is?" Davis nodded vigorously, his fists clenched at his sides. "It's ridiculous. I'm gonna tell him exactly what I think about it in class today. Someone needs to stand up to these teachers." Aarush shifted uncomfortably. The Johnson twins seemed to create conflict like artists created paintings, with deliberate strokes and passion, but often without considering the bigger picture. They were always looking for injustice to fight against, sometimes finding it where it didn't exist. Just then, Priya Patel and Emma Johnson, no relation to the Johnson twins, walked by, their arms loaded with books. They paused when they saw Mr. Henderson rounding the corner. "Good morning, Mr. Henderson," Priya called out, her voice sweet as honey. "I finished that extra credit assignment you gave us. It was so fascinating learning about the water cycle." Emma nodded enthusiastically. "We made a diagram to go with it. Would you like to see it now? We have it right here." Mr. Henderson smiled, genuinely pleased. "That's wonderful, girls. Thank you for your dedication. I'll take a look during my free period." As the teacher continued down the hall, Priya and Emma exchanged triumphant looks. They were known as the teacher's pets, always going above and beyond on assignments, always the first to volunteer, always sitting in the front row with their hands raised high in the air. Aarush admired their dedication, but sometimes wondered if they ever did anything just for themselves rather than for teacher approval. The warning bell rang, its shrill sound cutting through the hallway chatter like a knife through warm butter. Students began to scatter, heading to their first classes. Aarush said goodbye to Jake and Ben, who were already scanning the hallway for more students to share their snacks with, and made his way to homeroom. As he turned the corner, he nearly collided with Tyler Reed and Kevin Miller, two 8th graders who ruled the school with an iron fist. They were big boys, both already over 6 feet tall with muscles that strained against their t-shirts. They were known as the bad big boys, feared by younger students and respected by their peers.
"Sorry," Aarush mumbled, stepping aside quickly. Kevin clapped him on the shoulder, a gesture that was meant to be friendly but felt heavy as a sack of potatoes. "No harm done. Just be more careful next time." Aarush nodded and continued on his way, his heart beating a little faster. Tyler and Kevin weren't the worst bullies in the school. They didn't typically target specific kids for sustained torment, but they had a reputation for trouble and a presence that commanded respect through intimidation. Finally reaching his homeroom, Aarush took his seat just as Sophia Chen and Mia Rodriguez slid into the desks beside him. They were both in his advanced coding class, and they were currently struggling with their latest assignment. "Aarush?" Sophia whispered, her voice as soft and sweet as cotton candy. "We were hoping you can help us with our Python project. You're just so good at it, and we're completely lost." Mia nodded, her eyes wide and pleading. "Please, we would be forever grateful. You're our only hope." Aarush couldn't help but smile at their dramatic plea. Sophia and Mia were masters of the art of affectionate persuasion, turning on the charm whenever they needed help with their schoolwork. They were smart girls, but they had discovered that a little flattery went a long way, especially with boys their age. "I can help during study hall," Aarush agreed, "but you need to try it yourself first. I won't do it for you." "Of course," they promised in unison, though Aarush suspected they had no intention of struggling through the coding on their own if they could avoid it. As the homeroom teacher took attendance, Aarush's eyes drifted to Ryan Brooks and Alex Kim, who were sitting across the room whispering furiously over a piece of paper, which they quickly hid when the teacher glanced their way. Ryan and Alex were known as the best students. They consistently got top grades, participated in class discussions, and were often praised by teachers. But Aarush had seen enough to know that their academic success wasn't entirely earned. He had witnessed them passing notes during tests, sharing homework answers, and using their phones to look up information during exams. Yet they maintained an air of academic superiority that fooled most teachers and students. Aarush sighed softly to himself. His friends were like a garden with many different types of plants, some bright and showy, some thorny and defensive, some sweet-smelling but with shallow roots. He floated between them all, appreciating their different qualities, but sometimes feeling like he didn't fully belong to any single group. The morning announcements crackled over the intercom, and Aarush perked up when he heard about the upcoming technology fair. Students were invited to submit projects in various categories, with the winners receiving trophies and the chance to represent the school at the regional competition. Aarush's mind immediately began to buzz with possibilities. He loved coding and had been working on a small app that helped students organize their homework and study schedules. Maybe this was his chance to really shine. But as he looked around the room at his various friends, he wondered how he would navigate the complex social landscape that came with participating in a school-wide event. Each group would want him on their side, each would have their own agenda. How could he stay true to himself while maintaining his connections to all these different people? Little did Aarush know that the technology fair would become the catalyst for a journey of self-discovery, teaching him valuable lessons about friendship, integrity, and the courage to stand up for what he believed in. The school day passed in a blur of classes, assignments, and social interactions. During lunch, Aarush found himself at his usual table in the cafeteria, a neutral territory where friends from different groups could coexist peacefully. Today, however, the atmosphere was charged with excitement about the technology fair. "I'm definitely entering the robotics category," Jake announced, pushing his tray aside to pull out his phone and show everyone a video of a robot he had built. "My dad helped me with the design, but I programmed it myself. It can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes. Ben nodded enthusiastically. We're going to win for sure. We've been working on it since last summer. Across the table, Marcus shook his head. The whole competition is rigged anyway. The judges always pick the same kids to win. It's just another way for the school to pretend they care about innovation while really just rewarding conformity. Davis nodded in agreement. Totally. We should organize a protest or something. Make a statement about how the system is unfair. Priya and Emma, who had joined the table, looked horrified. Why would you protest? It's a wonderful opportunity to showcase our talents, Priya said, her voice tight with disapproval. Emma nodded vigorously. Mr. Henderson is one of the judges, and he told me he's looking forward to seeing what students come up with. We should all participate and do our best. Aarush noticed Ryan and Alex sitting at another table nearby. They were whispering and laughing as they shared a paper between them. Alex had an earpiece carefully tucked behind his ear, which he quickly removed when Ryan nudged him and nodded towards Aarush. Aarush felt a chill run down his spine. What were they up to now? Were they trying to cheat on the technology fair before it even began? How could he even compete with someone who played by different rules when they had a superior reputation to begin with?
At a nearby table, whispering to each other and occasionally glancing over at their group, he had a feeling they were planning something, though he couldn't tell what. Tyler and Kevin walked past their table, and Kevin paused to say, "Heard you guys are talking about the tech fair. My cousin won it last year. Said it was pretty easy if you know what you're doing." Tyler grinned. "Yeah, he said the judges are easily impressed. Just make something flashy and you're good to go." As they walked away, Sophia and Mia slid into the empty seats beside Aarush. "Aarush," Sophia began, her voice soft as silk. "We were thinking of entering the app development category, but we're not very good at coding. Would you consider being our partner? You're so talented, and we could really use your expertise." Mia nodded, batting her eyelashes. "Please, we'd be so grateful. We could even share the prize money if we win." Aarush felt a familiar tug-of-war in his mind. On one hand, he liked Sophia and Mia and didn't mind helping them. On the other hand, he knew they wanted him to do most of the work while they took credit, and he had his own app he wanted to develop. "I appreciate the offer," he said carefully, "but I was thinking of entering my own project this year." The girls' faces fell, but they quickly recovered. "Oh, that's wonderful," Sophia said, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "We'll just have to find someone else to help us. But we'll still come to you for advice, right? You're the best coder in school." Aarush nodded, feeling both flattered and manipulated. "I'm happy to help with specific problems, but you should try to build the app yourselves. You'll learn more that way." As lunch continued, the conversation shifted to other topics, but Arush's mind kept returning to the technology fair. He was excited about the possibility of showcasing his homework organizer app, but he was also dreading the social complications that would come with it. Each of his friend groups would want something from him, and he wasn't sure how to navigate their expectations while staying true to his own vision. After school, Aarush headed to the library to work on his app. The library was his sanctuary, a quiet place where he could think and create without the pressures of the social world. The familiar scent of old books and the soft hum of the computers comforted him as he settled into a corner desk and opened his laptop. He was so engrossed in his work that he didn't notice Ryan and Alex approaching until they were standing right beside him. "Hey, Aarush," Ryan said, his voice friendly but with an undercurrent Aarush couldn't quite identify. "Working on your tech fair project?" Aarush nodded, saving his work and turning to face them. "Yeah, just trying to work out some bugs in my homework organizer app." Alex leaned over his shoulder to look at the screen. "Looks good. You're a natural at this stuff." "Thanks," Aarush replied, feeling a mixture of pride and suspicion. Ryan and Alex weren't typically this complimentary unless they wanted something. Ryan pulled up a chair and sat down.
Listen, we were thinking of entering the competition too. We have an idea for a virtual reality educational experience, but we're not as good at the coding part as you are. We were wondering if you'd be willing to help us out. Arush hesitated. He knew Ryan and Alex's reputation for taking credit for others' work and for finding shortcuts to success. I'm not sure I have time to help with another project. I'm pretty focused on my own app right now. Alex exchanged a look with Ryan. We'd make it worth your while. We could split the prize money 3 ways if we win, and we'd put your name first on the project. Aarush was tempted. The recognition would be nice, and the prize money would certainly be welcome, but something didn't feel right about the situation. I'll think about it, he said finally, but I really need to focus on my own project right now. Ryan and Alex didn't look pleased, but they masked their disappointment with smiles. Sure, no problem, but don't wait too long to decide. The deadline for registration is next week. As they walked away, Arush couldn't shake the feeling that they were up to something. He turned back to his laptop, but his concentration was broken. He decided to take a break and walked over to the fiction section, running his fingers along the spines of the books as he browsed. He was so lost in thought that he didn't hear someone approach until a soft voice spoke beside him. Hard at work on your project? Aarush turned to see Maya Patel, a quiet girl from his science class who he sometimes partnered with for labs. Maya was smart and creative, but she kept to herself mostly, observing the social dynamics of the school with the same thoughtful attention that Aarush did. Yeah, Aarush replied with a smile, trying to get my app ready for the tech fair. Maya nodded, her dark eyes thoughtful. I saw Ryan and Alex talking to you. Be careful with them. Aarush raised an eyebrow. Why do you say that? Maya hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. I overheard them talking in the computer lab one day. Arush's lab yesterday. They were planning to copy someone's project for the competition and pass it off as their own. They were saying how easy it would be to make a few changes and claim it as original work. Aarush felt a chill run down his spine. Did they say whose project they were planning to copy? Maya shook her head. No, but they mentioned that the person was too trusting for their own good. I thought you should know. Aarush thanks Maya, his mind racing. So that was Ryan and Alex's plan. They wanted to help with his project only to steal it and claim it as their own. He felt a mix of anger and disappointment. He had considered them friends, even if he knew they cut corners sometimes. But this was beyond mere cheating. This was betrayal.
I'm sure they'll turn up, Ryan said with a shrug. Maybe the printer jammed or something. Aarush wasn't convinced, but he didn't push the issue. Instead, he went to Mr. Henderson, the computer science teacher, and one of the tech fair judges, and explained his concerns. Mr. Henderson listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. I appreciate you coming to me, Aarush, he said. I'll keep an eye on the situation. In the meantime, I suggest you save your work in multiple places and be careful about who has access to it. Aarush nodded, relieved that he had taken action. He spent the rest of the day backing up his work and adding password protection to his files. He also decided to keep a detailed log of his progress, including dates and screenshots, to prove that the work was his own. As the week progressed, the tension around the technology fair grew. Jake and Ben were everywhere, handing out cookies and brownies and asking people to vote for their robot in the People's Choice Award category. The Johnson twins were spreading rumors about the competition being rigged, trying to rally support for their protest. Priya and Emma were practically living in the computer lab, working on their project and seeking constant feedback from teachers. Tyler and Kevin were boasting about how easy the competition would be to win. Sophia and Mia were still trying to get Aarush to help with their app, using increasingly dramatic flattery. And Ryan and Alex were watching Arush's every move, looking for an opportunity to steal his work. Aarush felt like he was navigating a minefield, trying to stay true to himself while avoiding the various traps his friends were setting. He was grateful for Maya, who had become a quiet ally, often working beside him in the library and offering encouragement and advice. You know, Maya said one afternoon as they were working, you don't have to be friends with everyone. It's okay to set boundaries and spend time with people who respect you and your work. Aarush looked up from his laptop, surprised by her directness. I know, but I feel like I understand all of them, like I can see why they do what they do, even if I don't agree with it. Maya smiled. That's because you're empathetic, but empathy doesn't mean you have to let people take advantage of you. Aarush considered this. You're right. I guess I've been trying so hard to get along with everyone that I haven't been standing up for myself as much as I should. Maya nodded. It's never too late to start. The day of the technology fair dawned bright and clear, the sun shining like a spotlight on the school gymnasium where the event was being held. Aarush arrived early, his stomach fluttering with a mixture of excitement and nerves. He had put the finishing touches on his app the night before, and he was proud of what he had created. It was a clean, intuitive interface that allowed students to input their assignments, set reminders, and even block distracting websites during study time. He had also added a feature that suggested study breaks at optimal intervals, based on research about productivity and focus. As he set up his display table, he noticed the other participants arriving. Jake and Ben were putting the final touches on their robot, which was already solving a Rubik's Cube to the amazement of earlier Reavers. The Johnson twins had set up a booth protesting the competition, with signs asking, "Who really wins?" Priya and Emma had created an elaborate presentation about renewable energy, complete with the working model of a wind turbine. Tyler and Kevin had built a simple but impressive-looking virtual reality game. Sophia and Mia had managed to put together a basic app with help from another student. And Ryan and Alex had a project that looked suspiciously similar to what Aarush had been working on, though they had changed enough details to make it not immediately obvious. Aarush felt a surge of anger when he saw their display, but he took a deep breath and reminded himself that he had proof that his work was his own. He also reminded himself that the best revenge was living well, or, in this case, letting his work speak for itself. As the fair began and students, teachers, and parents started circulating through the displays, Aarush found himself surprisingly calm. He demonstrated his app with confidence, answering questions and explaining his design choices. He received positive feedback from many people, including several teachers who praised the practicality and thoughtfulness of his design. Midway through the fair, Mr. Henderson approached his table, followed by the other judges. Arush's heart raced as they asked him detailed questions about his app, how he came up with the idea, and what challenges he had faced during development.
He answered honestly and confidently, feeling a sense of pride in what he had accomplished. As the judges moved on to the next display, Aarush noticed Ryan and Alex watching him with nervous expressions. He wondered if they were starting to realize that their plan might backfire. Later in the afternoon, Aarush took a break and wandered around to see the other projects.
He stopped at Jake and Ben's display, genuinely impressed by their robot. "This is amazing, guys," he said sincerely. "You must have worked really hard on it." Jake beamed with pride. "Thanks, Aarush. We did. It was a lot of trial and error, but we got there in the end." Ben nodded. "And we didn't even need to bribe anyone with cookies to get them to like it. The robot speaks for itself." Aarush smiled, touched by their realization. "It really does. You should be proud." Next, he stopped at the Johnson twins' booth. They looked surprised to see him. "Protesting the competition, huh?" Aarush said with a gentle smile. Marcus shrugged, looking a bit embarrassed. "Yeah, but honestly, seeing all these cool projects makes me kind of regret it. I didn't realize how much work people put into this stuff." Davis nodded. "And Mr. Henderson actually came over and talked to us about our concerns. He said they're always looking for ways to make the competition fairer. Maybe we should have talked to him instead of just assuming it was rigged." Aarush was impressed by their insight. It's never too late to join in. There's still time to set up a project if you want. The twins looked at each other, considering this possibility. Aarush continued his tour, stopping at Priya and Emma's display. They were surrounded by people, eagerly explaining their renewable energy project. "This is incredible," Aarush said when he had a chance to speak with them. "You guys really know your stuff." Priya blushed with pleasure. "Thank you, Aarush. We worked really hard on it, but it was actually fun. We learned so much." Emma nodded. "And we didn't even do it for extra credit. Well, not just for extra credit. We did it because we care about the environment." Aarush was happy to see their genuine enthusiasm. It shows. Your passion is contagious. As he moved on, he saw Tyler and Kevin demonstrating their virtual reality game to a group of impressed younger students. They were being surprisingly patient and encouraging, answering questions and helping the younger kids understand how the technology worked. "Hey, Aarush," Kevin called out when he saw him. "Want to try it?" Aarush nodded and put on the VR headset. The game was simple but fun, and he could see why the younger students were enjoying it. "This is great, guys," he said when he took off the headset. "You've put a lot of thought into making it accessible for different age groups." Tyler shrugged, looking uncharacteristically modest. "We figured not everyone is as comfortable with this stuff as we are. It's cool to see people getting excited about it." Aarush was pleased to see this softer side of them. Next, he stopped at Sophia and Mia's display. Their app was basic, but functional, and they were doing their best to explain how it worked. "You guys did a good job," Aarush said sincerely. "I know coding isn't easy when you're just starting out." Sophia looked relieved. "It was harder than we thought. We actually ended up doing most of it ourselves after you turned us down. It was frustrating at times, but we're pretty proud of what we accomplished." Nana nodded. "And we learned a lot more than we would have if you had just done it for us. So thank you for not helping us as much as we wanted you to." Aarush was touched by their honesty. "You're welcome, and you should be proud. You did a great job." Finally, he approached Ryan and Alex's display. They looked nervous when they saw him coming. "Interesting project," Aarush said, keeping his voice neutral. "It reminds me of something I was working on." Ryan and Alex exchanged a guilty look. "Yeah, well, great minds think alike, right?" Ryan said with a weak laugh. Aarush decided to be direct but kind. "I know you took some of my work. I saw you printing it the other day, and I've been keeping detailed records of my progress." Alex looked down at his shoes, but Ryan tried to maintain a defiant expression. "You can't prove anything." Otto shook his head. "I don't want to get you in trouble, but I do want you to know that it's not worth it. Winning feels better when you've earned it honestly." Ryan's defiance crumbled, replaced by shame.
Or sorry, Aarush, we wanted to win so badly, and we knew we couldn't come up with something as good as yours on our own. Aarush felt a surge of compassion. You're both smart. You could have created something great if you had put in the effort. Cheating might seem easier, but it never feels good in the end. Alex nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. We know. We'll talk to the judges and explain what happened. Aarush was surprised by their decision to come clean. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, I think you have good ideas. You just need to trust yourselves more. As the technology fair came to a close and the judges prepared to announce the winners, Aarush felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in weeks. He had navigated the complex social dynamics of his friend groups, staying true to himself while encouraging others to be their best selves. He had stood up for his work without being confrontational, and he had even managed to inspire some positive changes in his friends.
Ends. Mr. Henderson took the stage, holding a microphone. First, I want to thank all the students who participated in this year's technology fair. The creativity, innovation, and hard work on display today have been truly impressive. You should all be proud of what you've accomplished. He went on to announce the winners in various categories. Jake and Ben won first place in the robotics division, beaming with pride as they accepted their trophy. Priya and Emma won in the renewable energy category, their genuine enthusiasm shining through as they accepted their award. Tyler and Kevin won in the gaming category, looking genuinely surprised and pleased. When it came time to announce the winner in the app development category, Mr. Henderson paused. This was a particularly competitive category, with many outstanding entries. However, one project stood out for its practical application, clean design, and thoughtful features. The winner is Aarush Sarma for his Homework Organizer app. Aarush felt a surge of surprise and happiness as he walked up to accept his trophy. As he shook Mr. Henderson's hand, the teacher whispered, "Your integrity and hard work are just as impressive as your app. Congratulations." After the award ceremony, many of Aarush's friends approached him to offer their congratulations. Even Ryan and Alex came over, looking genuinely happy for him. "You deserve to win, Aarush," Ryan said sincerely. "Your app is amazing." Alex nodded. "And we talked to the judges like we said we would. They appreciated our honesty and said they hope to see us enter again next year with our own original work." Aarush smiled, feeling a sense of closure. "I look forward to seeing what you create." As he left the gymnasium, trophy in hand, Aarush felt a sense of contentment wash over him. The setting sun cast long shadows across the school grounds, painting the world in shades of gold and purple. He thought about the journey he had been on, navigating the complex garden of friendships he had cultivated. Each of his friends was like a different type of plant in that garden. Some showy and bright, some thorny and defensive, some sweet-smelling but with shallow roots. But like any good gardener, Aarush had learned to appreciate each plant for its unique qualities, while also recognizing that some needed more care than others, and some needed to be pruned back occasionally to allow for healthier growth. He realized that true friendship wasn't about agreeing with everything your friends did or letting them take advantage of you. It was about seeing the best in them, encouraging them to be their best selves, and having the courage to set boundaries when necessary. As he walked home, the trophy feeling surprisingly light in his hands, Aarush knew that the real prize wasn't the award he had won, but the wisdom he had gained and the genuine connections he had forged with his friends. And he looked forward to continuing to nurture his garden of friendships, helping them grow and flourish in the days and years to come. That night, as Aarush lay in bed, the moon casting a silvery glow across his room, he thought about the events of the past few weeks. The technology fair had been more than just a competition. It had been a journey of self-discovery and growth. He thought about Jake and Ben, who had learned that genuine achievement was more satisfying than popularity bought with cookies. He thought about the Johnson twins, who had discovered that communication was more effective than confrontation. He thought about Priya and Emma,
who had found joy in learning for its own sake, not just for teacher approval. He thought about Tyler and Kevin, who had shown a gentler side of themselves when sharing their knowledge with others. He thought about Sophia and Mia, who had learned the value of perseverance and honest effort. And he thought about Ryan and Alex, who had taken the first step toward rebuilding their integrity by admitting their mistake. Aarush realized that people, like plants, needed the right conditions to grow and flourish. Sometimes they needed sunshine and encouragement. Sometimes they needed pruning and boundaries. And sometimes they simply needed time to develop at their own pace. As a friend, he could provide some of those conditions, but ultimately, each person had to do their own growing. He also recognized that he had grown through this experience. He had learned to stand up for himself, to set boundaries, and to trust his own judgment. He had learned that it was okay to say no, even to friends, and that true friends would respect his decisions. As he drifted off to sleep, Aarush dreamed of a garden filled with many different types of plants, each unique and beautiful in its own way, all growing together in harmony. And in the center of the garden stood a strong, healthy tree with deep roots and branches that reached toward the sky. A tree that represented himself, growing stronger and wiser with each passing day.
Grown wiser and more compassionate. And in the quiet of the night, the garden of friendships continued to grow, nurtured by understanding, respect, and the courage to be true to oneself.